Hello, Jonathan. So I'll go over some things with you here, and of course we're going to be sending you a report. I'm looking at my template here, the pictures that I took, and you'll get these pictures with the report that we're going to be sending to you. I think, yeah, we have your email address. So the structure of this house looks fine. And technically, I really like houses of this age because they tend to be pretty solid, pretty well-built places. The rear portion of the garage roof has got a little bit of a sag to it, and that's not unusual. I tried to get a picture of that. It's not unusual because of the span of the framing. Over time, the rafters have a tendency to want to just develop some sag. So it isn't anything that has to be attended to at this point. The roof isn't falling in, nothing along those lines. So you got a picture, it kind of shows a bit of a sag on the roof. The number of layers of roofing should be kept to a minimum. So if you're here when the roof is replaced, they should take off existing roofing before they put another roof on. The outside of the garage foundation, I have a picture of it. It has been parge coated, and that's probably because the foundation had experienced what's called spalling, which is just some crumbling or flaking from years of exposure to road salt. So that's extremely common. It isn't anything to worry about, and the common approach is what they did here, to patch or parge coat the foundation. So that isn't a concern. So that's really about it as far as the structure, except for the fact that the outside of the house has not been well maintained. There's a fair amount of rot, there's some holes in the siding, there's significantly damaged trim, and that all needs to be repaired. Now, when it gets like that, you could have a situation where in the midst of doing repairs, you take off old siding or old trim, or you're replacing a window, you might find that water has gotten inside the wall cavities and created some rot in areas that you wouldn't know about until you start tearing into it. So there's the possibility that you'll find some damage that none of us know about at this point. So just keep that in mind. As far as basement moisture is concerned, I don't see anything down there that would suggest a problem. The walls have probably been painted recently. It makes it a little more difficult, but it has been the wet time of year, and there's nothing down there telling me that there's a problem with water. Keep water away from the house. The house could stand a good quality gutter and downspout system. The gutters that are on here are not great. They're old galvanized gutters. There's joints that are leaking. I would just replace the gutters and make sure that they're channeling water away from the house. And then if you're doing any landscaping, you want to slope the ground away from the house. Anything you can do to carry water away is going to help. The furnace. I know you have a question about the furnace. The good news is this is a really solid furnace. Frankly, they don't make furnaces like this anymore. The bad news, of course, is that it's original. So it's, whatever, 60 years old. Furnaces normally don't last 60 years. These have had a tendency to last this long because they're made so well. It's not terribly efficient. Certainly a new furnace would be more efficient. But I don't see any issues with it at this point, except the blower assembly could stand some adjustment. The belt on it is starting to fray or deteriorate. So it just needs a good cleaning and servicing, and I would strongly recommend that you do that at this point, just so everything is checked out to make sure that it's fine right now. But we were able to get a pretty good look at the heat exchanger on it, and I didn't see any issues there. Plumbing looks fine, except we got a slow drain on the sink in the bathroom. It's draining, it's barely draining. So clearing the drains would be a good idea. Otherwise, the fixtures are working, water pressure is decent. The water heater is 2008, is when that was manufactured. Now, the vent pipe on the water heater is 3-inch diameter. It's very common, but by today's standards, they use 4-inch. So when the water heater is replaced, the contractor is going to want to put a 4-inch vent on there as opposed to 3. That's a simple thing. The electric service is 100 amp capacity. It looks like, I don't know, did they just put they must have just put a new service on, because the meter and the riser pole is looks new. The old riser pole is still sticking out of the roof, unused. It's not hurting anything being there. At some point in time you might want to remove it, but 100 amp service is fine. You got a decent number of outlets around, so I don't see significant issues there. You don't need more service. Electricians would want to put a bigger service in, but you don't need that. Some insulation in the band joist area of the basement, which is the area around the perimeter of the flooring system just above the foundation. That would be a good idea. On the inside of the house, it's in pretty decent shape. The walls and floors and ceilings are fine. We tested the cooktop, the old oven, the range hood, those are working. We couldn't look inside the fireplace from the inside because it's blocked. They've got some insulation and cardboard. But we were able to look down into the chimney from the roof. And you'll see a picture of the top of the chimney in my report. I don't know if you can tell from there, but it's been real sloppily patched with tar. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a chimney guy come in and take that crown off. It was chipped and broken and poorly patched. Take the crown off and put a new crown on there. Put screens on top of the flues so water doesn't seep down in there. And they can get a good look at the flue. The one concern that there might be with the flue for the fireplace, you might see there's two flues for the chimney. One of them is for the furnace and water heater, the other one's for the fireplace. Inside the fireplace flue, the picture probably won't show it real well, but the tiles inside there are not aligned real well. Some of them are misaligned, which can create some gaps. Not unusual in a chimney of this age, but the chimney contractor coming to do that work on the crown can get a good look inside the chimney and make sure that the flue is safe for use. The insulation in the attic floor is not very good, frankly. There's only a minimal amount of insulation. Pretty sure I got pictures of that, yeah. So you'll see some pictures of the attic space. There's only about yay much insulation. You certainly should put more in. But ventilation of the roof system seems pretty good. When you put more insulation in the floor of the attic, don't block the soffit vents. There's soffit vents around the front and rear of the house. You don't want to stick the insulation down into the soffit. Then around the outside of the house is where it really could stand some work. We've got some damaged siding, some patched and rotted trim, peeling paint. This winter has been a bad winter for ice damming. There's some stains on the front of the house. You'll see, like this picture, all that staining on the front of the house. That's from ice damming. I'm sure they had ice damming issues this winter. Frankly, almost everybody had ice buildup this year. So this doesn't make this house that unique, but you want to do a bunch of siding repair, a bunch of trim repair, replacing gutters. You certainly could make a case for replacing some of the windows too. This one might be the worst one. That's one of the front windows where the sill is quite rotted. And again, you'll get these pictures with the report. We got on the roof. Roof's in decent shape. Because it's a light colored roof, it looks kind of stained and discolored, but that's because that's what light colored roofs do. So it's not showing any significant wear or anything like that. I think you've got years left on the roof. You could make a case for cleaning a little bit of moss off the roof. That's not a bad idea.
And what about the floor in the basement?
The floor in the basement, you had a question about whether it is asbestos tile. It probably is. Matter of fact, there's a couple boxes of the tile downstairs and we were able to look on the internet, and in all likelihood that tile contains asbestos. Frankly, I see asbestos in houses almost every day. Any house that's built before the 60s is going to have some asbestos material. This is the second house I've been in today, and the house I just came from, asbestos.